Welcome back to Before It Made Sense, where I bring in people from different backgrounds and professions so they are able to help the younger generation and able to build the fundamental steps to attain the success that they want. So today we have Matthew, a cinematographer and a short film creator whose work doesn't just stand out because of trends, but through genuine processes, intention, and storytelling. So thank you for taking your time to be here, Matt.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course, of course. So I've been watching a lot of your videos and following you on Instagram and wondered where the inspiration really comes behind them.
I think it comes a lot from music and also just being in a dark room when I was younger and just watching movies 24/7.
So you really think that movies actually have a great impact in a way for children, although the parents may be thinking otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly does depend on the movie because when I was younger, I definitely was watching movies I shouldn't have been watching. And I think that kind of helped me gravitate towards like the style I have now and kind of like the inspirations and motivations of a lot of things that I do now.
So you really think it builds the creativity and how a person thinks? Is that what you're trying to say?
I definitely think that it is very impressionable, especially at like that, 12, 13, 14-year-old age, to where it leaves me like, whoa, I want to do something like this. And it just, the feeling that you get from that is kind of different than, say, for example, something that you watch later on or when you're an adult. It just has kind of like a different vibe to it, a different feeling when you're younger.
Okay, so for the people that are just discovering who you are, how would you describe to them what you do? What would you tell them?
I just like to make stories, and I like to use cameras to kind of tell those stories. So I love being, a cinematographer. I love, visual effects. I love filmmaking, but most importantly, I just love telling stories.
Okay, so where did your interest in filmmaking actually start? At what stage of your life did it click to you like, oh, well, I actually love this, I find great interest in this sect and I want to actually pursue a future in this?
That's a really good question. I was very, very young. I would say around 7 or 8 years old when I knew that this kind of had a different path for me as far as like watching movies and just feeling excited that you get to create your own universe. So when I was like 8 years old, I was, taking my mom's old video camera and just filming since I was that young.
So there was a point in your life where you kind of realized that this was just more than a hobby, but more of, a true part of your, own self, right?
Yes, I definitely knew at that age that I wanted to pursue filmmaking when I was that young.
Well, that's pretty awesome. I mean, especially because you were really young. I know I was 7, 8 years old playing with a fidget spinner, just sitting in my room.
I know.
That's awesome, man.
Thank you.
Well, I want to go back, to your education years where you were, studying, going through the same stages that I'm going through. Well, in your educational years, did you pursue any, majors or classes that had any relation to your cinematography that you're doing nowadays?
Yes, so when I was 19 after high school, I took, it was a, creative kind of course in Lone Star, which is kind of like community college here in Texas. And I took a film, I think it was just like film class. It was like one of the introductory film classes. So we would just watch movies and kind of analyze the movie afterward.
Yeah, because I was like, there's no way someone can edit this well, without getting the education needed. Because I mean, out of all the creators out there, I mean, there's a reason why I find yours very appealing. Like, you have your videos are just audience attracting, you make it feel like you're present in that actual video. So I just really love your videos and just find great interest in them.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I actually never went to school for filmmaking. I never took any courses. That was kind of like the only course I did take because I would have to take a creative kind of like elective, if you will.
Okay.
So that's the reason why I joined that. And I was like, I think that kind of made me broaden my horizon on different films rather than just the ones that I'm used to.
Okay.
Because that kind of showed from different places of the world.
Yeah, because I've seen that you were able to diversify your account with different types of film. I mean, there's a lot of also, you know, collabs that you've done, especially on your, you know, other um, bases, right? But another question that I have for you is that looking back, what parts of your learning actually came from the school and what came strictly from your growth and, you know, experience?
I would say I learned about 2% of what I know now from that course, and it was just like a one semester thing. Everything else has been self taught.
Wow. So it really wasn't. So you're trying to say that a lot of the things that, you know, these content creators and filmmakers know is kind of what the processes that they go through, right? You know, I feel like schools don't teach a lot of this, you know, but in your opinion, is that what you think so, or was it just strictly about you?
Well, I think school teaches you a lot of the technicalities when it comes to what you want to do, but if you just, do it yourself and build kind of like a portfolio or, just some body of work, then that's how you really learn.
Okay, okay, that's awesome. That's awesome, man. So, do you think that the traditional education from, you know, dating back these couple years, right, plays actually a meaningful role in creative careers? Doesn't have to be specifically cinematography, or does it, you know, value, or does it like value depend on how someone actually uses it?
That's a really good question. I do believe that the education for it is important. There's no harm in trying to pursue something, especially that you want to have a career in a field. And I know, pursuing an education in that could, maybe network, have some sort of potential down the line to kind of network with people that you wouldn't have before, or it's all very situational.
Okay, so yeah, I totally agree on that. You know, everyone needs to at least have some sort of education to be able to build the foundational skills
Mhm.
that they are going to need in the future. But there's a lot of young creators out there, you know, that just haven't even discovered maybe 50% of actual creating the creator world, right? But what do you think is the biggest thing that they misunderstand about making it in film?
I think a lot of people think that it's super easy and it's kind of overnight success on how things look as far as like the cinematography or the filmmaking, but it's the journey and it's the process and it's those countless hours that nobody sees you editing at night that kind of have built up this staircase to where you're at now.
Of course. Well, I mean, you've shown it through your work. I mean, you've posted a lot of different things throughout, you know, your years in this creating sect, right? But one thing that stands out a lot to me is your the setup before, and then your outcome, right? You know, that just, I watched, I was like, dude, so I don't know, how is he able to take a video from this part, from here, but then at the end, just, you know, have that one hand on the shoulder.
Oh,
You
yeah,
remember that one
yeah,
video,
yeah.
right? No, that one was really cool.
Thank
You know,
you.
where did the concept from that actually come from?
That is crazy. So a lot of the videos that like have gotten a lot of retention and views honestly come from ideas the night before. Like whether I'm listening to music, I'm like, okay, I know my friends are gonna want to shoot something that like tomorrow, so I want to come up with a concept. It's just the music. I listen to a lot of different music, different genres. I watch a lot of different movies, and I kind of grab elements out of each thing to create something original, if that makes sense.
No, because believe it or not, I was just sitting in my room before you came. I was just watching it. I was like, I was not watching it just, you know, just to watch it, but for the fun of it. I was like looking, I was like, damn, man, how'd you
Yeah.
come up with this idea, right? I
Yeah,
was
so
like,
that specific video was from, I was watching a movie called Talk to Me. It's like a horror movie. It came out, I think, last year or 2 years ago. And there was this one scene where like this demonic figure was reaching behind somebody.
yeah.
And I was like, that'd be really cool if she kind of like turned around and there was nobody there. It was like all in her head.
Look, I was like, what, man?
Yeah,
How'd
so
you edit that?
I was like, maybe, and then I like how nasty the hand looked. It looked like if it was dead or something
Yeah.
otherworldly. So I'm like, I want to kind of
Really
put some
cool.
makeup. I want to put, make
Yeah.
it kind of suspenseful.
You see,
So
that element like really stands out. It's just that one thing I feel like that's really important in the videos. Do you think that all these reels and these films, they have that one component that really grabs the audience's attention? Do you feel like that has an important role in all these films?
I think it does, and I guess I subconsciously do it in my videos without even thinking, because it's like I pretty much make things that I want to see. So it's like if I were to see that, I would want it to be, I would want to make something to watch through the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it has to be a strong beginning, middle, and end.
Now that you brought up, the retention and how the reels work, right? I've seen that a lot of your videos have racked up millions upon millions of views. It's really hard, and especially nowadays, since a lot of this content and filmmaking is really saturated. People are just trying to get in, and do it. But if you had to tell somebody, my age, about attaining the highest retention rate and getting the most views, getting themselves out there, what would be the one most crucial advice that you would want to give them so they can attain it?
That's a really good question. It would be to not think about it, to just create a good story and the people will follow. Because I think once you start focusing on metrics and like numbers and followers, it's like, what are you really doing it for? And that's how this niche kind of weeds out those people that do it for, I guess, internet fame and stuff, versus like, do they really want to tell a story? So whenever I make these things, I'm not thinking about this is gonna be 10 million views. I'm just like, okay, this would be pretty cool to do, and like it's something that I want to see, so I just make it.
So it's more of the process rather than what you desire on the spot, right? It's kind of if you make the content that you truly believe has a meaning behind it, and that you truly yourself enjoy, you really think that it would by time, of course, get the retention that it needs.
Yeah, I think the secret ingredient is to create emotion. A lot of things are made without intent or emotion or vulnerability, and I feel like the difference between that is just create something that a lot of people can feel. So I think that's an important key part in creating good work.
So this is kind of a question I've been wondering, and I feel like you know a lot about it. So you create a lot of new content, you post reels at least a couple times a week, right? But how do you train yourself to see cinematic things or just process them in your mind in your everyday life?
That's a good question. Again, like starting when I was young, I just feel like a lot of friends and family members tell me that, well, you just see things differently, and you just, everything you do, you can do cinematic or have a cinematic look. So I just try to take the ordinary and kind of enhance it, if that makes sense. Kind of take mundane things and just make it look beautiful.
Oh yeah, that's what I was actually about to jump into. I have, a lot of vlogs that I have, because I also do kind of content myself. I have a separate account. I have this little day in the life of a 15-year-old high school trying to escape the matrix. But there's this one aspect that I've not been able to add in my videos, and it's the cinematic look. And what I was going to ask you specifically is that are you able to make any video that you have cinematic? Like, is that really a thing?
I think that answer leads all towards the story. It comes back to the story, because you can make the most simple, basic things feel and look cinematic if you were to have a really good, story, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, because there is no meaning behind it if you're just, adding the cinematography, and you have to have, a meaning towards it. But for someone that just wants to start off, in their filmmaking journey, but they don't have the resources to it, what's that one thing, that they should really focus on? Just put away all the investments that they need, all the equipment, all the camera quality, their friends, right? But what is that one thing that can really help them grow, that they need to focus on to be able to do so?
I would say it's just to write every day, to figure out what makes a good story, what makes a bad story. If you're able to see a movie and tell, the bad qualities, then you're already a step ahead, That way you can implement that into your work or whatever you want to do. Because you're right, the gear doesn't matter. How many people you have for a film doesn't matter. The camera doesn't matter. I've seen amazing things filmed on a phone, on an iPod Touch.
iPod.
From back then. iPod Touch, yes.
That's crazy.
And it makes it look amazing just because of the story and just the way it's told. So I just think,
That's pretty good. So over time, your work has grown to the masses. You were able to reach over 130,000 followers on platforms. I've seen your TikTok and everything. And how, from specifically about that, how has your filmmaking changed as you have grown, as your work has exceeded?
Wow. I just think that I stopped second guessing myself now, because I used to a lot. And the only thing that would hold me back was truly myself. Because I would be like, oh, this isn't really good enough. This isn't like that, level 10 cinematic production look. Now I'm at a point where I'm like, if I want to make something, I don't second guess it. I trust my gut and I just do it.
Okay. Well, this is, I see this a lot around my friend group and myself. Well, it's the fact that we make a lot of videos, right? Whether it be, TikTok thirst traps, TikTok reels, TikTok vlogs, Insta, but how do you decide whether to post something or, just to leave it for later, just keep as a backup? What do you do to be able to decide that?
That's a really good question too. I think it just comes down to the story. It honestly does. If I think that a story is good enough, then I'm like, okay, I would want to post this. If I just think it's cool cinematic shots, then I usually won't post it. I just keep it to myself.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, in the next couple of years, the cinematography is going to evolve. Every day the internet's changing, social media is just growing. How do you see your cinematography changing in the next, say, 5 years?
In the next 5 years, I really would love to experiment with different various, ways of filmmaking, whether it be, different angles, different lighting setups, different, pieces of gear, but it just narrows down to the story. So whatever the story is that I create later down the line would kind of have that necessary cinematography to just enhance and tell that story.
Of course. Well, of course you're gonna have a lot of collabs down the line, different types of people. Has there been one person in mind? I mean, I'm curious myself that you wanted to work with and find out their work was pretty interesting to you?
As far as working, I don't think so, but with collaborating, or not collaborating, just learning more information and about the person, it would probably be my favorite director of all time, which would be David Fincher. If I could, he's directed Fight Club, The Social Network.
Oh, yeah,
those are my favorite movies. So if I could just even have a conversation and pick his brain, then I know I would learn a lot from him.
That's pretty awesome. Well, I want to shift over to technology, right?
Yes.
So a lot of tech is included in this filmmaking industry, and you can do a lot with it.
Mm-hmm.
I found out myself right now even. Yeah. But where does technology specifically help, and can it possibly hurt your storytelling?
I believe it being too flashy and just the sake of having the technology there. I feel like it wouldn't limit the way the story is told, but I just feel like it would be more style over substance, to where, and I'm sure you've seen a bunch of beautiful movies with horrible plots where you're like, it looked good, but what was the story?
Fix it, dude.
Exactly,
come on, man.
So I just think that's the only, I guess you would say, downside to that is just, the flashiness and, the style over the substance.
So I don't know if you know too much about this, but have you seen the new movie Avatar?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, it's just, all right, what are your opinions on it, man?
It looked amazing. It looked so beautiful, and then you could really see the quality of how long or how many years it took for them to kind of bring that, CGI and VFX to life, because it just looks
Because I was
crazy.
watching and I was like, man, of course, I have glasses on, right? I'm just looking at it. it makes me feel like I'm literally present. Like,
Yeah.
am I flying the Banshee or what, man?
Yeah,
I
right.
was like, okay, how are they able to, create such high quality of a film? I have not watched any film like that. I feel like it's genuinely it's my top three, really. And I was just gonna ask you, how are they able to do this type of stuff? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of camera angling and
Yeah.
stuff to do with it, but do you know?
So I think it comes down to James Cameron, which is the guy who
Yeah.
directed and co-wrote Avatar 3, but he had a vision, I think, since like the 70s or late 80s, to where he had the entire story and idea and concept
Really?
of Avatar, and it's just during the time it was the technology that wasn't there, so he postponed. I think he made like Terminator, Titan, all that stuff afterward.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
there was up to a point where he was eventually gonna make it, but he was like, it's still not there yet. So he waited until, I think the first one was 2008 or something like that.
2009.
2009,
yeah.
where he's like, okay, I think I feel pretty confident. And then he's also made a bunch of technology for that movie to create kind of like the characters and the environment, and it just gets more efficient later down the line. I think he wanted to say that the water physics weren't there to create the second one, so that's why he waited until like 3 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Because it looks amazing.
It was a very, very long period. I mean, there sure has to be a reason for it. I mean, I would not want to watch a high quality film, but with low quality water. Like,
Right? Yeah.
I get what he's doing, but it's just really like crazy how much you could really do with this filmmaking and all these things you can do with just these cameras. And I mean, I'm just waiting for the next movie to come out. I'm hoping it comes out next year.
Yeah,
maybe.
we'll see. That takes a long time.
Well, a lot of I just want to shift right back to the younger kids and the
Okay.
new generation, right? A lot of them are pressured with posting nonstop. I mean, I feel like this too, that this younger generation a lot of them are just focused on the retention rates, the posts, the views. Oh, am I not posting enough? Do I have to make a schedule for it, right? And they feel pressured from it, right? And do you think that actually has an effect on the storytelling that they give? They're just overdoing it,
I feel like not only does it have an effect on that, but also on your mental state. Because if you have to completely just look forward to when you're gonna post, and you're stressing out over these metrics and timing, then I feel like that takes away out of the fun of the creativity. So now it feels more of like you have to do it rather than how it should feel, which is free, creative thinking and fun. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's totally true, because I wouldn't be able to do something that I don't find enjoyment in,
Yeah.
I feel like you're just doing it for the outcome, if you get what I'm trying to say. A lot of them are focused on this, but it never comes easy. That's what they don't realize. It just comes from the journey that they build off of it.
I don't know where I heard this quote, but it's like, if you start doing something for other people, then you're not truly enjoying it. If you do it for yourself, that's where the real answer is.
And that's because a lot of people, they don't want to actually accept that's the truth. I mean, I see a lot of my friends doing the same thing. They just want the result right now. Come on, give it to me, man. But
I feel like this day and age too, it's just like you're seeing TikTok and Reels and all this and that, YouTube Shorts, to where you are expected for it to happen overnight, whatever it is. But that's just not the case. People don't see the growth; they see the result.
Yeah, and even then, bro, it might happen maybe 1 in like 1,000. A reel may pop off just like that overnight, but that's not because it's the present, but it's the quality of content they made. You know what I mean? Like, they need to really focus on the process that goes with it and how they actually structure it. So that's really what I think is pretty important too when it comes to content creation and filmmaking.
I agree.
But AI is starting to appear. You've seen it slowly. I feel like, do you use it in your editing quickly?
I do not use it in my editing. I don't use it for creating stories or post-production or any of that, just because I'm so used to kind of doing the effects, the writing, all that by myself. I don't feel like I would want to incorporate like third-party entities or things or anything like that, because I just feel like what you create is kind of vulnerable, and there is a time and a place to use AI. I've seen it done, like, I don't know if you're familiar with rotoscoping, but it's like in editing they would cut out frame by frame. They would have like 12 people working on a person to cut them out frame by frame out of an image. And since there's 24 frames in a second, they would have to go every frame 12 and then just have 12 people cutting them out. But now with the help of AI, it's like really efficient, and it does it. It selects you and then it cuts out the entire thing. So
that's how. So you see that how AI is able to fit into the creative work. That's what it's able to do now, right?
I would say yes. I would say it definitely helps with the efficiency and spending less time on things to really maximize your time on the actual story itself.
Okay, so right now AI is at its, I feel like it's only at its base, right? I mean, there's definitely way more to grow. Do you think that there will be any point in time where, AI will eventually have to take over filmers and, film taking?
I hope not. I'll be out of a job.
Oh.
But, no, I mean, there's going to be some sort of, I guess, balance in the artificial intelligence and creating art. I think there's just going to be a resurgence in indie filmmaking, independent filmmaking, to kind of sort of combat not only AI, but like big studios owning other studios and just releasing generic movies. There is going to come a point where people are going to take it upon themselves to create beautiful kind of like man-made art to kind of combat the craziness.
Yeah, I've definitely slowly been seeing it, but I feel like these type of jobs just cannot ever really be replaced because it's really authentic to what it is, and it would really take a lot of work for AI to be able to take over because they have to have the thinking process instilled in them, and then the things and then to be able to do the things that humans are able to do nowadays, right? But for your own personal direction, right? Where do you hope that your work, evolves next, creative wise, but not commercially?
Creative wise, these are really good questions, by the way. I believe that I would want to make more personal and vulnerable films. Stories that, because everybody's different. Everybody has their own stories to tell, and I feel like it's important to kind of bring out that vulnerability, and I think that's true, honest filmmaking, true, honest intent. So I think I would just want to, instead of creating like really cool little like, cinematic shorts and filmmaking and flexing like, visual effects and all this, I would want to see where that narrative route can take me.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I know that for a fact that's true because I've seen different types of content where like one may be a different type of genre and theme to it, whereas the other signifies a different type of meaning, right?
Yes.
And the most important thing that they are able to show is the meaning really behind it, right? Like to be able to bring that person's emotions out, to be able to like express what they truly feel. As you said, the vulnerability has a very significant impact on how the outcome of the actual film would be. But are there, in your opinion, any like formats and stories that you would feel drawn to, especially for the long term?
Are you talking like specific
specific types of stories that you would want to kind of stick to, what I mean?
Honestly, I've never really thought of that. I've always liked the idea of evolving into wherever the story or a story would take me. So whether that be like a drama or like a thriller or like a sci-fi, I would rather feel deeply connected to whatever's given to me and how I would reflect on the story and what I can bring to it, and not only what it brings to me, but and then for that kind of to lead the route. So I don't want to be limited or bound to like a specific thing or only do one sort of film.
Of course. Well, like I really enjoyed what you've been telling, so I kind of want to just want to end this off and close it off with some wisdom you have for the people that are wondering and curious, especially in this route. But what is one habit that you kind of do every single day that grounds your creativity, kind of make sure it just doesn't go away?
Ooh, okay. So some advice I would give, which is the most important thing, is just to go out and to just shoot. It sounds very cliche and oversaid and done, but it's the truth. Because how are you going to know your own voice or your own style, or if you just go out and shoot? Because you can watch a million movies, you can say that you'll do this and that, but at the end of the day, it's the steps or the building blocks that lead up to where you're going to be eventually. So.
Of course. Well, there's a lot of people out there, whether their profession may be, doctorate degree or, entrepreneur, finance, investor.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing they all have in common is that they learned something, the hard way. They had that one point in their life where it hit them really hard and that they kind of needed to make the change and, instill that as their new habit. So for you, what was that thing that you learned the hard way that you were able to, of course, tell the audience to make sure to, watch out for in their future?
Yes. So I would say it would be to make whatever it is you would want to make with pure intent, with your intentions behind it, with your vulnerable ideas and stories behind it, because you would want to do a million other things or like promote basketballs or shoes and stuff, but it just narrows down to, in your heart, exactly doing what you truly want to do, what you're really passionate about. And you shouldn't have to wait to that moment or have an opportunity come to you. You got to create those.
Of course. Well, I mean, for the people that are interested in books and movies that, like you said, that you watch, right? Are there any specific directors or books or films that you feel drawn to that would massively help the audience build their creativity skills up here?
Specifically, I have to take a minute, but I would just say to watch any sort of film from any genre and from any place in the world. It doesn't have to just be United States or a specific country, but you just have to kind of get these different experiences to really truly see how it would make you feel, and then maybe you could create something that nobody else has really thought of. It's just opening that horizon and expanding your palette to truly take everything in.
So it's like grabbing one aspect from here, one aspect from there,
Exactly.
and just kind of shaping something that you would find your true meaning in, right?
Creating something original.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
If someone listening today, my age, right? And they're early in their creative journey, they actually started, they're following the steps that are right and necessary, right? And they have this uncertain feeling, right? They, they're not confident in themselves, right? What's one idea that you would want them to take out of this conversation that we've had?
Is to trust your gut and to just film. If you're interested in cinematography or filmmaking, creating stories, it's not going to fall into your lap. So I would just, it's better to start now than have to, keep telling yourself or reminding yourself, I'll eventually start. Maybe tomorrow, maybe one day. You should take that initiative to just start, now, because you'll only get better from there.
Well, thank you so much, Matt, for coming to, in my studio.
Of course.
Great pleasure to meet you.